What's up YouTube? It's the one and only legend of winning, aka Low, and I'm back with another video. So the day has finally come, NBA Draft Day, where all the fans of all the bad teams gather around the TV screen and we sit here and hope and pray that our general managers don't make a mistake and actually draft the correct player. This year's draft class is extremely special because the amount of potential that is in the draft is a big possibility that this is probably going to be one of the deepest drafts that we've seen in a very long time. Potentially 8 to 10 prospects deep that could play at an all-star level, and a couple of franchise players that potentially could be in this draft as well. So this might be a very good draft. If you don't know, follow me on Twitter because obviously I will be doing live reactions, but you ain't here for all of that. You here for these draft predictions, so let's just get right into it. Here are my draft predictions for the 2017 NBA Draft. Now, with the number 1 pick, we have the Philadelphia 76ers. For those who are completely unaware, the Philadelphia 76ers initially had the 3rd pick in this draft. However, they had to trade up to get that number 1 pick. Reason why they had to do that is because they did not want to miss out on Markelle Fultz. Markelle Fultz out of Washington, 6'4" point guard with a 6'10" wingspan. My goodness, is he impressive. Offensively, there's really not much that he cannot do. He is by far one of the greatest scorers we've seen in the NCAA in the past couple of years, averaging 23 points, also grabbed 5 to 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and shot 41% from behind the arc. When it comes to his offensive game, Markelle Fultz is probably one of the more complete guards we've seen into the draft in a very long time. However, for me, when it comes to Markelle Fultz, the biggest positive in his game is his ability to be a playmaker out of the pick and roll. He makes the right passes a lot of times, and that's great from a guard who also has the ability to score the ball at an elite level. A lot of people are comparing him to James Harden. I think that's a little bit appropriate, especially because James Harden now is playing that point guard position. Moving on to the number 2 pick, we have the Los Angeles Lakers. Shout out to Luke Walton because for whatever reason he felt it necessary to tell people that Magic Johnson had already assured him that the Lakers are going to get their number 2 pick. But with the number 2 pick, I have the Los Angeles Lakers picking Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball is a point guard out of UCLA, stands at 6'6". Unfortunately, has not been measured for his wingspan yet. However, it does seem like he may have a 6'6", a 6'8" wingspan from at least what I've seen. Now, when it comes to Lonzo Ball, all of y'all already know how great of a player Lonzo Ball potentially could be. When it comes to his passing ability, it is at an elite level. By far, one of the greatest passers we've seen into the NBA in a very long time, which is why people are already having comparisons with Jason Kidd, Penny Hardaway, and crazy enough, even Magic Johnson. Also, when it comes to his shooting ability, he is very lethal from behind the 3-point line, and I do believe he can actually knock down 3-pointers at an NBA level, which is something that is great, especially for the Los Angeles Lakers. But for me, the biggest positive when it comes to Lonzo Ball is his basketball IQ. Simply put, Lonzo Ball, he does the right play at the right time. He feels comfortable with pushing the pace, getting other players involved, moving the ball around, and even, again, being a threat off ball, so he feels comfortable with that as well. So I think Lonzo Ball, I know a lot of people talk about his 3-point shooting, I know a lot of people talk about his passing, I know a lot of people talk about what he potentially can be, but quite honestly, in my opinion, I just think Lonzo Ball is an extremely smart basketball player. Moving on to the 3rd pick in the NBA Draft, we have the Boston Celtics. Shout out to the Brooklyn Nets because they still feeding off the picks that y'all gave them several years ago. But with the 3rd pick, I have the Boston Celtics drafting Jason Tatum, the 6'8" forward out of Duke with a 6'11" wingspan. That is if they keep this pick and don't trade it away. Now, why exactly would they draft Jason Tatum? Jason Tatum offensively is coming into the NBA with a very well-rounded game. He's able to finish around the rim, post up, mid-range, face up, even behind the 3-point line, and I think that's definitely what the Boston Celtics need right now. Have a forward that can come into the NBA, kind of give you a little bit of offense, especially if it's going to be coming off the bench, if they're able to pull off the Gordon Hayward signing or even the Paul George trade. Definitely have that player coming off the bench and able to give you some offense immediately. Also, when it comes to the relationship between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, because obviously they play both the same position, I honestly believe Jason Tatum is much more prone to playing small forward and power forward than Jaylen Brown is. Jaylen Brown will be much more perimeter oriented, guarding multiple positions, and I think that's great for him. And Jason Tatum will know his role and play the small forward, power forward position, and that also open up the floor for other things to happen for the Boston Celtics. If I were to be extremely optimistic, I would say a hybrid between Carmelo Anthony and Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce got in the post a little bit throughout his career. However, Carmelo Anthony was definitely more involved in the post, and I think Jason Tatum could follow that path. And at worst, we're talking about an Antoine Walker. Fairly inconsistent from behind the three-point line. A guy that you just have on the court just to shoot the three ball. Doesn't really give you that much defensively. Neither does he give you that much on the rebounds, because even though he did grab 7 rebounds in college, I really don't think that he's going to be that special off the boards. But if we're going to be somewhere in the middle, I would say somewhere around a Rudy Gay that's not as athletic. And I think that's a fair comparison for Jason Tatum. Moving on to the number 4 pick, we have the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns also have 2 Miami draft picks in the near future, so I really wouldn't be too surprised if they made a trade, especially for Porzingis. But for the Phoenix Suns, I have them drafting Josh Jackson, the forward out of Kansas. Josh Jackson stands at 6'8" with a 6'10" wingspan, which is extremely impressive. When it comes to Josh Jackson, he's a great athlete, extremely explosive. He has a great finishing touch around the rim, and quite honestly, if you polish his mechanics, offensively he can be extremely well-rounded. However, what's going to separate him from other prospects is what he's going to do on the defensive end. In my fair estimation, I think that Josh Jackson defensively really is impressive. I think that Josh Jackson potentially, I'm not going to say he's there yet, but potentially could be a Kawhi Leonard type of player. I know that's extremely crazy. However, I think Josh Jackson could definitely reach that level of excellence. It's a bit of a reach, but I do believe he's going to be able to reach that level of excellence. It's all what he's going to do on the offensive end, because he does have to become a bit more consistent from the mid-range shot. Kawhi Leonard definitely added that to his game this last offseason. And also when it comes to his ability to create his own shot, that is something that he's going to have to consistently add into his game. But again, that's something that Kawhi Leonard struggled with when he entered into the NBA. However, if I'm going to be more fair, I would say roughly around an Andre Iguodala type of player. Now, coming in at the 5th pick, we have the Sacramento Kings. Please, Sacramento, don't screw this up. You have 2 picks that's falling in top 10, and you could potentially get 2 great players. However, with their 5th pick, I have them selecting De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox is a point guard out of Kentucky. 6'3" point guard with a 6'7" wingspan, which is extremely impressive, and my goodness, is he explosive. Extremely fast, extremely quick. De'Aaron Fox reportedly blew a lot of scouts away in his pre-draft workouts. I think a lot of people were impressed of how high his motor was, how much energy he has, how long he was able to keep going, which is great from a point guard perspective, because that's definitely what you want to have with your point guard. When it comes out to pick and roll, he's a really great playmaker and an exceptional ball handler. So he has a lot of those things that you want. And when it comes to the defensive end, he's extremely active. In my personal opinion, he may gamble a little bit too much, but that's something that you obviously want to see in college. However, if there is one negative when it comes to De'Aaron Fox, it is his inability to shoot the 3 ball. Now, when it comes to a comparison, I think the greatest comparison is John Wall, but you know, that's at best. There's a real possibility that my man De'Aaron Fox might be Elfrid Payton, and that would definitely be a massive hit for anyone who drafts him. But moving on to the number 6 pick, we have the Orlando Magic. Orlando has had a very tough time trying to bounce back after losing Dwight Howard, so I think they're going to be safe with this one and go out there and select Malik Monk. Malik Monk is a guard out of Kansas, 6'3" with a 6'4" wingspan, and offensively, especially when it comes to shooting, he is extremely well versed. When it comes to his shooting ability, Malik Monk really has it all. Doesn't matter if it's mid-range, 3-pointers, off the dribble, catch and shoot, contested, wide open. Malik Monk is extremely consistent, and I think he is a fair and safe bet for the Orlando Magic. However, if there is some negative things to say about Malik Monk, it is his decision making. He's not an all-time point guard, so please don't have him running point guard Orlando. I know you try to do that with Victor Oladipo. It's not going to work with Malik Monk, so don't put him at the point guard position. However, if I'm going to be extremely optimistic, I would compare him to Ray Allen. But if I had to be a pessimist, I would compare him to a bench player such as Jamal Crawford or Lou Williams. Coming in with the 7th pick of the NBA draft, we have the Minnesota Timberwolves. Since the year 2006, the Minnesota Timberwolves have had 10 top 10 draft picks. My goodness, Minnesota. But at number 7, I have them selecting Lauri Markkanen. Lauri Markkanen is a forward out of Arizona, a 7-foot player, has not been measured for his wingspan, which is extremely concerning. However, he is a stretch forward, so he can play both power forward, maybe play some center because he is 7 feet tall. And I think it's a fairly good pairing with Karl-Anthony Towns. Stretch the floor out a little bit, give Towns a lot more space around the rim, and give a little bit more ball movement and some baseline cuts to the athletic perimeter players if Markkanen is stretching the floor. Now, when it comes to his negatives, it is possible that he's just not as great of a shooter as a lot of people expect him to be. When you're shooting at a collegiate level, it looks great until you're playing at that NBA stage and the three-point line is a little bit further from where you were shooting at when you was playing in college. So that definitely is a problem. Also, when it comes to his athleticism, his inability to move his feet on the defensive end is a massive problem, especially in today's NBA where pick and rolls are definitely used so heavy that everybody will be switching on this man if he is a starter. And shout out to Thibodeau, because I don't know how you're going to teach this man defense, because it's definitely going to be a problem for you moving forward. A lot of people are comparing this man to Dirk Nowitzki. I think that's ridiculous. I get tired of people keep comparing white 7-foot shooters to Dirk Nowitzki. To me, that's just so lazy. In my opinion, that is the highest ceiling that he has. However, there is a very, very realistic opportunity that he turns into a Ryan Anderson or a Channing Frye type of player. And worst case scenario, he may be Frank Kaminsky. So keep that in mind as well. Coming in at the number 8th pick, we have the New York Knicks. And just before we keep going forward, I don't know what Phil Jackson is doing. I made these graphics with the intention that he was going to keep Porzingis. So that's the reason why the number 8th pick, I have the New York Knicks selecting Dennis Smith. I think that this team needs a point guard because they definitely have been looking high and low for one, and Derrick Rose is not that player. Dennis Smith has the ability to be a very explosive athlete, and I would love to see Dennis Smith along with Porzingis in pick and roll action, especially because he can finish around the rim. Also, when it comes to his ability to be a ball handler, he's extremely crafty at that as well, which obviously leads him into finishing around the rim at an elite level. If we're being optimistic, we're talking about potentially Baron Davis, maybe Stephon Marbury, maybe even Jeff Teague type of a player. At worst though, because of his inability to shoot the ball consistently and the fact that he's just looking to attack the rim over and over again, I would more so compare him to a Nate Robinson type of player. Obviously, he's more taller and he's not as athletic. However, because he's so prone to just go into the lane and attack the rim, obviously Nate Robinson became a much more fluid shooter as time progressed in his career. However, I can easily see that type of comparison with Dennis Smith. Coming in at number 9, we have the Dallas Mavericks, and if this is Dirk Nowitzki's last year in the NBA, and shout out to you, Dirk, man, thank you for everything that you've done to the NBA, and I want to make sure I take the time out to say that. However, with the number 9 pick, I have the Dallas Mavericks selecting Zach Collins out of Gonzaga, 7-foot big with a 7'1" wingspan, more than likely going to fill out his frame a little bit more, but already at 230, I think that's a really good starting weight for a big, especially in today's NBA. And he can do a little bit of everything. You can really mold his game, especially it depends on what exactly the Dallas Mavericks want him to be. He's a really good rim runner. However, off of pick and rolls, you can't cheat too much because he can also knock down a mid-range shot, which is something that you definitely want to add to your game, especially in today's NBA. And when it comes to the defensive end, he moves his feet very well, which is something that's extremely impressive from a 7-footer. And he also contests his shots, and he also gets a couple of nasty blocks here and there as well. Now, on the negative side, the one thing I think a lot of people are pointing out is that he's not the greatest athlete. Sure, in a couple of these highlights, he's going to look like a great athlete, but he's just not as fluid as he needs to be, especially when it comes to running at a full sprint. At best, there are some people claiming that he's going to be Marc Gasol. I think that's a bit too much, especially because he's not the passer that Marc Gasol is. However, I think Serge Ibaka is a fair comparison, but at worst, we're talking about Jason Smith. And finally, we have the number 10 pick, because this is where I'm going to wrap it up. And with the number 10 pick, we have the Sacramento Kings. Sacramento Kings got this pick from the New Orleans Pelicans when they made the trade to get DeMarcus Cousins. The Sacramento Kings may come out pretty good at this draft. And at number 10, we have Jonathan Isaac, the forward out of Florida State, 6'11" with a 7'1" wingspan. Extremely impressive what he can do on the court. His versatility is definitely felt. He feels comfortable handling the ball. He's a threat from the mid-range and the three-point shot, especially on catch and shoot. And also on the defensive end, he moves his feet, and he could potentially be a very good, versatile defender. And also, I don't think he's going to be as impactful as a lot of people are anticipating, simply because I think Jonathan Isaac is one of those players that has to be on the right team at the right time with the right personnel around him. And potentially the Sacramento Kings might have the right personnel that is around him, but who knows? But with all that being said, people, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully I can upload this pretty soon so you all can consume it and enjoy it. And hopefully you all will follow me on Twitter, because I will be lit. And also, I may leave a Discord link in the comment section if you want to chat it up with us while the draft is going on. So make sure you click on that. But until then, I will see you all later. Peace.